السلام عليكم سيدتي سادتي، شكرا جزيلا على حضوركم هنا معنا اليوم. أنا خالد وولفسبرغ، الناطق الرسمي باسم السفارة الأمريكية في الجزائر. يحضر معنا اليوم ضيف خاص وهو السيد ديفيد شينكر الذي يشغل منصب مساعد وزير الخارجية لشؤون الشرق الأدنى، وهو يشغل هذا المنصب منذ جوان 2019. قبل انضمامه إلى وزارة الخارجية شغل السيد شينكر منصب مدير برنامج السياسة العربية في معهد واشنطن للشرق الأدنى، ودرس السيد شينكر في الجامعة الأمريكية في القاهرة، لذا هو يفهم بل يجيد اللغة العربية. دعونا الآن نعطي السيد شينكر بعض الوقت لإلقاء كلمته القصيرة قبل أن نفتح المجال للأسئلة. نظرا لضيق الوقت فإنه خلال فترة الأسئلة سنسمح لكل صحفي طرح سؤال واحد فقط على مساعد وزير الخارجية. السيد شينكر تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. It's good to be here in this city's history, culture, and dynamism. The same can be said for all of Algeria. The United States has long had important political and economic ties with Algeria, and I'm here to underline and reaffirm them. Let me start by sending my best wishes to President Tebboune after his return to Algeria. I hope he has a speedy and full recovery. Algerians, Americans, and the rest of the world are in the midst of a terrible struggle against the coronavirus, and on behalf of the United States, I send my deepest condolences to those Algerians who have lost friends and family to this terrible disease. Allah yarhamu. The United States has committed $4.1 million to support Algeria's fight against COVID-19 and will continue our important partnerships in the months and years ahead. I'm proud about our partnership in countering the virus, and note it is based on a long history of U.S.-Algeria cooperation. In this residence behind me, Algerian diplomats helped us release 52 American diplomats after 444 days of being held hostage by Iran some 40 years ago this month. In 2000, we worked with Algeria to broker an end to the Ethiopian-Eritrean war, which had claimed tens of thousands of lives. In 2015, American diplomats supported Algeria's leadership in concluding the Algiers Accords, which sought to curb the violence in Mali. Algeria is a leader on the international stage, and both of our countries have a shared interest in ensuring a safer, more stable, and more prosperous region. And our partnership is much deeper than politics and security cooperation. If the circumstances permit, given the global pandemic, the United States will be privileged to be the country of honor at this year's Algiers International Fair, where American firms will once again explore win-win partnerships with their Algerian counterparts. Indeed, many American companies are in Algeria, creating jobs and economic growth from the pharmaceutical sector to energy production and everywhere in between. Each and every day, we're building people-to-people ties in education, the arts, culture, and so many other areas. In sum, we have a great deal in common and a deep and abiding respect for the Algerian government and the Algerian people. We look forward to continuing our valuable partnership in the years ahead. And with that, I'll look forward to taking your questions.
هل ستراجع الإدارة الأمريكية الاعتراف الذي أصدره رئيس الملتهية ولاياته دونالد ترامب حول سيادة المغرب على الصحراء الغربية المحتلة؟ وهل يتضمن الاعتراف الأمريكي والاتفاق الثلاثي مؤخرا بين واشنطن وإسرائيل والمغرب حضور عسكري أمريكي في الصحراء الغربية سواء بشكل مباشر أو غير مباشر؟
Thank you. As for the first question, whether a Biden administration would retract or reverse President Trump's decision regarding the recognition of Moroccan sovereignty over the Western Sahara, this is not a decision that I can speak to. I was appointed to work in this administration for Secretary Pompeo. Every president has the prerogative to make decisions and to set foreign policy and to determine the administration's initiatives. What I can tell you is that the United States continues to believe that political negotiations are capable of, only political negotiations are capable of resolving the issues between Morocco and the Polisario. And we believe that negotiations should occur within the context of Morocco's autonomy plan. On the issue of whether the U.S. will have boots on the ground in Western Sahara, let me be clear, the U.S. is not establishing a military base in the Western Sahara. It's not talking about, AFRICOM is not talking about moving its headquarters to the Western Sahara. So in that regard, I've seen the articles in the Moroccan and Algerian press, and they are incorrect.
Hello, from Lamar TV. First of all, I would like to welcome you to Algeria. My question is, can you tell us about ways and means of bilateral cooperation in both economic and security files between our two countries, America and Algeria?
Well, thank you. You know, I am here following up on visits of then former Secretary Mark Esper, former Secretary of Defense, in October. The AFRICOM commander, General Townsend, was here in September, and of course, my counterpart, my colleague, Secretary of the Air Force, Bennett, who was here for a day-long visit and leaving today. We're all here for the same reason, and that is because the United States is committed to its relationship with Algeria. It's rich, it's multifaceted, and includes a security dimension, obviously, but also an economic dimension, and we're looking to grow both of those elements. I'll leave the defense side to the Secretary of the Air Force, who is here today. She engaged in productive conversations with her counterparts, talking about ways that we can cooperate in terms of perhaps military sales, perhaps additional training, IMET, all sorts of things that we work together. And of course, the most sort of well-known aspect of this productive military relationship has been just excellent counterterrorism cooperation, something that both the United States and the government here in Algeria are dedicated, totally committed to. I met also today with the Minister of Finance and with Foreign Minister Boukadoum. With the Minister of Finance, we talked about areas of increasing trade, areas of technical assistance, ways of increasing U.S. foreign direct investment in Algeria, where just incredible developments are taking place in terms of productive legislative reform and new legislation that is making Algeria an even more attractive place to investors, and a place that, of course, we look forward to doing more work here. It's in both of our interests.
نعلم جيدا أنه في الأيام القليلة القادمة حكومة بايدن راح تتولى، يعني وبايدن راح يولي هو الرئيس الرسمي للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. السؤال المطروح هنا ما هي المعايير والأسس اللي تحتاجها الإدارة الأمريكية الجديدة فيما يخص العلاقات بين الجزائر والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية على الصعيد الاقتصادي السياسي وكذا الصعيد المتعلق بالاستثمار، ومن جهة ثانية يعني في سياق التفصيل كيف ستنظر الإدارة الأمريكية الجديدة لبعض الملفات للجزائر بين قوسين لها دور قيادي، منها الأزمة الليبية، قضية الصحراء الغربية وحقيقة الشعب الصحراوي في تقرير المصير، وكذلك الملف المالي.
Well, thank you. Those are two interesting questions. As I said a minute ago, every administration has its own prerogatives, and so you have Democratic administrations, you have Republican administrations. They differ, but they also, remarkably, are pretty consistent across the years, and many of their policies and their approaches to the region, in particular, like countries like Algeria, with which we have deep, enduring, and historic relationship. You remember it was Senator John F. Kennedy who gave a speech on the Senate floor in 1956 calling for Algerian independence. Since then, we've had Republican administration, Democratic administration, and we have built on a strategic cooperation and partnership economically that has been, I think, very productive for both sides. And I would anticipate that the Biden administration would continue along these lines. I don't have any specifics for you. I can't really comment on that. As for Algeria's role, and so I'm not going to address how this will change under a Biden administration. I can say that the United States and Algeria have a plethora of shared interests in Libya. That is, we both believe that that there has to be a political solution to the problem. We are both supportive of the UN process, the UN-led process. This is the 5+5 military talks. This is the UN-led political dialogue forum. We believe that UN-led facilitated political negotiations are the best way to achieve peace in the region. We have very good counterterrorism cooperation in Mali. We think that Algeria is playing a productive role. Across the board, these are areas in which there is, I think, a remarkable consistency. So I'll leave it at that.
سيد شينكر، أمس شاهدنا صورا في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية في كابيتول في مقر الكونغرس. شاهدنا اقتحاما لهذا المبنى الدستوري الهام في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. في الشق الخارجي سيد شينكر، ألا تعتقد، ألا ترى أنه هذا سيؤثر على صورة الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية كمسوقة للديمقراطية والتداول السلمي في العالم؟ هذا أولا. ثانيا، بخصوص قضية الصحراء الغربية، كثير من الكبار المسؤولين في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية خصوصا في الإدارة الجمهورية، منهم مستشار الأمن القومي السابق جون بولتون، انتقدوا قرار إدارة ترامب ووصفوه بالمقايضة، وقال بأنه يهدر عقودا من المساعي الأمريكية. ألا ترى أن إدارة ترامب قد ورطت الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية على المدى البعيد في المنطقة؟
Well, thank you. On the first question, I think it was all. I think for all of us, it was troubling to watch these developments. I'd just like to quote for you a bit of what Secretary of State Pompeo tweeted yesterday, and I quote: "The storming of the U.S. Capitol was unacceptable. America is better than what we saw today." So I think that sums up his thoughts and certainly my thoughts. As for what certain former politicians or Republican or Democrat said about the Western Sahara, I'd like to just say, reiterate, I think, what I said before. Which is that the Western Sahara, that the United States has always and continues to believe that only political negotiations are capable of resolving the issues between Morocco and the Polisario, and that those negotiations should occur within the context of the autonomy plan. Beyond that, I think I'd say that the status quo in the Western Sahara has not worked. It's benefited no one. I think what we've done, what the administration has done, is made a move toward a more serious, a more realistic, and a more credible solution to the conflict in the Western Sahara. So that finding that solution, I think, requires bold, creative, and unorthodox approaches to the problem, and that is what the administration did. And we continue to urge all participants to constructively engage, and with the UN, we support the appointment of another UN special envoy, and we consider, as we all consider, and back the UN in moving toward new and creative ways to find progress on the peace process. So I'll leave it there.
بالنسبة إليكم كأمريكيين، وما هي المقاربة الأمنية والدور الأمريكي اليوم البناء ببناء السلم والأمن في منطقة الساحل في الوقت الذي تسعى فيه بعض الدول إلى الانفراد بالمنطقة بوضع مخططاتها الأمنية في المنطقة. بالنسبة للسؤال الثاني حول الشراكة الأمريكية الجزائرية في المجال الاقتصادي، وما مركز الجزائر من مشروع خصوصيات أفريقيا.
Well, thank you. I wish I could offer you words of wisdom on the Sahel. My counterpart, my colleague over at the State Department, Tibor Nagy, who's the Assistant Secretary for Africa, is mostly responsible for that. I can refer you back to him. I do know that that Algeria is, and this pertains to the second question as much as the first, as a member of the African Union, an important member and leader in Africa, plays a critical role in the security in the region and is a respected voice. It is also, by nature of its population, educated population, young population, size, location, an entrepot to Africa. And as increasingly Algeria, as I mentioned earlier, is changing in a productive way, its legislation making it a more attractive place for investment, can serve a real positive role in terms of trade and entree to both Africa and to Europe. So it's an important element in how the United States looks at trade and development in the region.
شكرا جزيلا على حضوركم معنا اليوم.